my great-grandmother named Alberta Meredith was born to their union. Well, Edward benefited from marrying a Choctaw woman because he too was given land. He received 698 acres of land in Tyler County, Mississippi. Now, his wife was Choctaw, and all of her people used to own this land. They had been here for a few hundred years. So, around 1830, the removal. They started removing the Indians to present-day Oklahoma, and here he is receiving 698 acres of land from his wife's, because our government took it from the Indians and they gave it to him, and he ended up also a European benefiting from our land and resources. And then, of course, we have African ancestors, and of course, our African ancestors came from Africa. And then, well, actually, as it turned out, James Meredith's grandmother, Frances Brown, was born in 1865. Her father was Josiah Abigail Patterson. Abigail was the name of his grandmother, and Josiah was his grandfather's name. Of course, that's the same grandfather who came here, an immigrant from Scottish Ireland, looking for an opportunity. He had a dream and he had acquired it by becoming a planter. Well, it turns out that when Frances married Ned Meredith, her father had owned her mother, Millie, but she became educated. She's the person who brought literacy to our family on that side. And she was a school teacher when she married my grandfather in 1888, because he married his first wife in 1877. I paid $10 for that census record, and that record was in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Now, the interesting thing to me about that census record, there was two things that was interesting to me about that record. First of all, my great-grandfather, Ned Meredith, signed an X on his marriage license. He was illiterate. The second thing that was interesting to me was that Ned Meredith, who was a Choctaw of African descent, signed his race as white. And so did his wife, Ellen Franklin. She signed her race as white. And so as I looked into it further, I discovered that the reason why they said they were white when they were not white was because the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek gave Indians the right to classify themselves as white. And I just couldn't get it. But I actually talked to a Choctaw in Philadelphia last year, and I just wanted to know his perspective. I asked him, I said, well, why do you think that these two people who were of Choctaw descent said that they were white? And it was his perspective that they probably wrote that they were white because to be Indian in the late 1800s was the lowest thing that you could be. It's just like us. During slavery, we were taught that we were cursed. And our skin was the result of us being cursed. And that there was no other way for us to be but to be slaves. But my great-grandmother, who could read, she ran across that story about Moses. And she decided to name her son, which is my grandfather, Moses, because Moses was symbolic of freedom, of a better life. And so, even though at that time they were sharecroppers, she taught all of her children reading, writing, and math at home in the evenings and on rainy days when they were not in the field. So someone asked me when I was doing a radio program one time, who is James Meredith? And another lady called in and she asked me, who was the real James Meredith? And so I'm going to attempt to answer that question. James Meredith is a black man of African descent, mixed like all of us. We're all mixed. Even in Egypt, everybody was mixed. Who was born June 25th, 1933, outside of Kosciuszko on an 84-acre farm with his family. He was the middle child on the farm. When his mother married his father, his first wife had died in 1929. They got married in 1931. And in the spirit of Women's History Month, I want to acknowledge Roxy Mariah Patterson Meredith because she married a man that had 5 children and helped him raise his children. And they had a very healthy and strong family structure. And then I want to tell you about Moses Meredith. That's James Meredith's father and our grandfather. He was born in 1891 in Noxapater, Mississippi. By the way, that is where one of the largest Indian mounds was, in Noxapater. And that is where the Choctaws who still live in our state live, and that's where the casino is now. Well, he told a story of being a little boy. Of course, he was born in 1891, and remembering that and seeing blacks auctioned off and sold as slaves, and slavery had been over. But he recalled seeing this when he was a little boy. So if he remembers seeing that, this had to have been in the 1890s, late 1890s. Well, back to the question about who is the real James Meredith, I have to mention 2 things about the real James Meredith. One thing is that he became the first black to go to all-white college in the state of Mississippi. He became a resident of Ole Miss September 30th, 1962. And he went to classes October the 1st, 1962. Now, if we stop right there, that was one of the significant moments in our struggle for civil rights. Now, we had Little Rock, they had integrated in 57, but we didn't have any blacks going to all-white colleges in the state of Mississippi. And I have to mention, in terms of that event, it was so significant that there were 300 reporters on the campus of the University of Mississippi from all over the world. And you may know this, but